barbecue blueberry bison ribs, and they were literally like the size of my arm, and they were served on wild rice pilaf with Indian fry bread, Native American fry bread.
And now I'm hungry.
Oh, that was so good. 3 of those ribs, and they were just like, like I was in the Flintstones.
Yeah. Now I'm...
Yes, hi, I'm Ben, by the way. Sorry.
I'm Paris.
Okay. Oh, what happened to Ben's windmill?
Oh.
He forgot.
No one will
The windmill was
forget that.
broke today, guys.
Sorry.
The
It's my trademark.
The windmill hasn't appeared yet, but now... Oh, it has. Oh, look.
What's on our topic plate for today, guys?
So today we are going to talk about what's called America's oldest cold case, and it's the murder and kidnapping of Maria Ridulph.
Oh. Taking out my tarot cards for this.
It's a very interesting case. There's a whole lot of dynamic that's going on here. So December 3rd, 1957, Maria and a friend of hers, Kathy, was outside playing. You know, it was dark. They were playing under the streetlights. It was snow-covered ground, all this stuff. And this man comes up to them, introduced himself as Johnny, asked if the girls wanted piggyback rides. Kathy, it creeped Kathy out a little bit, so she said no, she did not. However, Maria did. So he gives her a piggyback ride, and he comes back, sits her down, and is talking to them. And Maria said she wanted to go back home and to get one of her dolls to show him. So Kathy said she went back home and she come back with a doll. And by this time, Kathy's hands were getting cold from playing outside in the snow. So she said she was going to go home and get some mittens. So she went home and got her mittens. She says when she returned, the man who introduced himself as Johnny and Maria were both gone. So then she goes to Maria's house, knocks on the door, and asks if Maria's in there because she thought maybe Maria was home. Well, Maria's dad came to the door, said no, she's not here. She's out there playing, outside playing. And Kathy said no, she's gone, and told him what happened. So then, obviously, the family's frantic. They start going and knocking on neighbors' doors, in which there was a 18-year-old named John Tessier. They knocked on his parents' door as well. His dad owned a hardware store. So he opened the hardware store that night to give them some flashlights and supplies so that they could search for her. This was around 7 o'clock when she went missing. Some neighbors said they heard screaming around 7-ish, and then they looked until about 8:15. 8:15 is when they called the police, and then a massive search ensued. So the weird thing is, they did find her doll, but it wasn't very far from the house, but it was in an alleyway, a little ways from their home. But they searched and searched. They had a list of suspects that they were going to go by, but the FBI had come in and questioned John Tessier's mom. So apparently somehow they got on his trail at some point. Asked if he was home that night, if he returned home that night. She told them he had. However, that was a lie. He'd never come back home that night. So she'd lied to them. The only witness to any of this was Kathy, who was Maria was 7 and Kathy was 8 at the time. Um, the thing, so the whole case is really, really crazy. So they didn't find her body until 5 months later. They found her on April 26, 1958. Um, she was partially clothed and she was 90 miles away. They found her 90 miles away.
Wow.
A couple was walking in their
Can I
field.
pause? Can I press pause on you real quick because I had the two of cups in reverse pop out? Was there any? Was she too decomposed to find out if she was SA'd?
Well, yes, she was too decomposed to tell that. Of course, they're assuming that she was. Why
Yeah,
would someone just
exactly.
kidnap and murder a 7-year-old child? So they're assuming that she was. Um, they done 2 autopsies. So when they found her, they claimed they could not figure out the cause of death. But of course, you have to remember it's 1957, so they didn't really have all of the technology and all the different training that they do now.
Hmm.
So I think back in 2012, uh, they dug her up again, and forensic pathologists looked at her and said that she had been stabbed in the throat, and
Oh
that
dear.
was her cause of death. So, uh,
She's the
however,
Queen
this
of
went,
Cups. This is the third time this has popped out. The Queen of Cups. This young
yeah.
lady.
So this is, they didn't have any evidence to charge anybody. So after about 2 years, the case goes cold. Okay. Years later, in 1994, so remember she went missing in 1957.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So 1994, this is where John's sisters come in. His mom was on her deathbed and she told one of her daughters, Janet, she said, "Do you remember the night that the 2 little girls was playing and the one went missing?" And Janet said, "Yes, I do." And she told Janet, "John done it." So she dies. The other siblings are not really too sure about it. They really don't believe it, but they supported her in trying to find the truth, and going to the police and everything. So she goes to the police. They reopen the case. Well, it never was closed, but so they start doing some more digging on John Tessier. Well, whose name is now, because he changed his name, is now Jack Daniel McCauley. He changed his name. He claims for to honor his mother's family because that was his mother's maiden name. So that's why he claimed he changed his name. Anyway, they go to the police. Um,
This John Tessier, was he a friend of the family or were they close already or
well,
is he a complete stranger?
well, his father owned the hardware store, so they knew everybody in town. It was a little community. It was Sycamore, Illinois. So they knew everybody, and they were all neighbors. Okay.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So Jean, one of his other sisters, she said her comments were always, he was an evil man, but he was not a murderer. She didn't believe he murdered her. However, Jean accused him and their father of sexually abusing her for years, years and years and years. But anyway, over the years, John went on. He went into the Air Force. He was in the Air Force for 13 years, became a captain. After he retired from the military, he became a police officer. Um, so remember that. He joined the Air Force, okay? So years later, the police show up at his door. They start questioning him. And so They're suspecting that he's the one doing it. However, the DA does not think he's going to be able to get a murder conviction. So what he does is he charges him with the rape of his sister. She tells him this a story of when John had returned home from a military leave. She was 14 at the time. He took her to a neighboring house and he raped her and then shared her with some of his friends. So the DA takes this case and he wants to charge him. If he can get him convicted for the rape, he thinks he can get him convicted on the murder because of a judge of character. It shows the type of person he is. And then as they're digging, they realize there's this other girl from the town that he was a police officer in for a few years. Her name was Michelle. She was 14 at the time, and she claimed that he done the same thing to her that he did to Jean years earlier. So he goes to trial for all of these for the rape and everything. Well, that trial started in April 2012, lasted 4 days, just four. The judge throws it out because he said, "Why did y'all wait so long to come forward?" Because mind you, it'd been 40 years, 40
Mm-hmm.
almost 50 years. So that one gets thrown out. Well, they go ahead and they do the murder case. Here's where it gets tricky. Okay, they charge him with murder. The trial starts. However, remember he joined the Air Force, right? Y'all remember that? Okay. He has a piece of evidence that clears him, but the judge does not allow it to be heard. He was not there at the time. He was 40 miles away in Rockford being inducted and recruited into the Air Force that night and signing his papers and all to join the Air Force that the night that Maria was kidnapped and murdered.
John Tessier.
Yes. So, but the judge does not allow this piece of evidence in there, okay? So he gets convicted and sentenced to life in prison. So, of course, he goes to prison. He's doing all of these appeals, and everything. And he had to hire a new lawyer, and the lawyer was able to get a new judge to look at these things and see the evidence and the paperwork of the day he joined the Air Force. So this judge then vacates his sentence and his
They let him go.
conviction. Huh?
Did they let him go?
Yeah, yes, they let him go. So now he's out of prison.
Okay.
But the, I watched an interview that he done while he was in jail. And the journalist brings up the rapes that he'd been accused of over the years. The ones with his sister, the ones with Michelle, the ones with other girls that had filed complaints to the police department that he worked at. So her question was, he refused to talk about it. And so she said, well, is it possible? Her words to him was, is it possible that you were acquitted for the crimes that you did commit and convicted of a crime you did not commit? And he said, maybe. And that was his response to it. He said, that's all I'm going to say. And then he continued and he said, I am a sinner, but I am not a murderer. So he ended up, he's now out. And of course, here we are again. The case is open and cold because he had evidence that cleared him
Of the murder, but not the rape.
of the murder, but not his sister's rape and rapes of these other women and stuff. But of
Okay.
Maria, yes, he was cleared of Maria's. So now we're stuck again. But there was the cops at one time. There was another man. His name was William Henry Redmond. And in 1988, He was charged with a 1951 kidnapping and murder of 8-year-old Jan Marie Adolph. And it was dismissed, but after it was dismissed, he then confessed to that murder, which was in proximity of the area within Maria, where Maria had went missing. So there are some cops and detectives that think he's actually the one who was the perpetrator of Maria, you know. Um, so how they got back on uh, Jack's trail after so many years was because Kathy was shown pictures and identified him after 57 years. This 8-year-old who met this man for 5 minutes, you know, claims she remembered what he looked like. And they showed her pictures, and one of them was John. Of course, I seen the picture she identified it from. You couldn't even tell who that picture was. It was blurry. But she picked that one out and said it was him. So that's how they got back on the trail of, John Tessier or Jack Daniel McCollin, whatever you want to call him. Uh, but she had also identified a Thomas Joseph River years before that, and that one turned out not to be true either because he was in jail at the time of the murder. So it's like Kathy's grasping for straws here to find someone to blame, you know. So she's just picking out people that were in the
Yeah,
area at the time. Um, but so there's still really nobody knows. Nobody knows who done this. And but there are a lot of people who still believe it was Jack or John, uh, but it couldn't possibly be because
he wasn't there.
his right,
He
his
wasn't.
military papers were signed on that day, and he was 40 miles away. And
No, so the
they
cards
also
that I pulled for while you were talking about John and whatnot prove, well, not proves, but it's a pseudoscience. You can't prove pseudoscience, but it show that he's a devil, an evil man, like you were saying, but they let him go. Um, Even though there was discord within the circle, and there was trust there, he was the devil pretty much, and he caused,
and go ahead,
he
go ahead.
the choices that he made definitely destroyed boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
You know,
and
and then
which
I
he
was,
said that he
and then
he himself.
I flipped the top card and I was like, I wonder if I got any more information. And then Selene herself made an appearance. So I
Yeah,
was like, okay, okay.
yeah.
And then you asked about what was the next person's name?
Uh,
Henry.
Henry,
Henry.
William. Hold on, no, yeah,
And I,
Henry William Redmond.
and I asked Arrow yes or no if that was the perpetrator, and Arrow said yes, that's the one. So
I mean, it's uh, it's just really a really weird case. Like there's in that area, even that time, there were several sexual predators living in the
right,
area, but it
it's
was like they focused in on John Tessier for all them years. The
it just
FBI knew he was not around, but the police didn't. So they.
it just goes to show it's it's human nature to need to blame. You need to pin the blame, and then we were discussing this several weeks ago now in psychology about it's a human nature thing where you
Right,
need to. It's an outlet for your grief. It's an outlet for anger. It's an outlet for human emotion to be able to pin. It's a scapegoat thing to be able to pin it on something so you can focus. It's just human nature.
right. It's sad because you know nobody's been held accountable for this. So her brothers and her friend Kathy, and her parents have lived all these years with no justice, really.
No
And then when
closure.
they did think they had justice because someone was convicted of it, well, then it gets yanked right back from them, and here we sit, still no answers. Uh, but he himself said, I'm a sinner, but I'm not a murderer. And his sister Jean, whom he sexually abused, said he's an evil man, but he's not a murderer. She never believed that he murdered someone. She always believed that he probably had raped other people, in which he did, but uh, she never believed that he murdered anyone.
Arrow thinks
So
this Henry guy. So
yeah, well, that's what a lot of the detectives think, but they have no evidence to be able to put it
prosecute.
on it. But yeah,
Yeah.
well, he has died now,
Yeah. So
but right, but they because he did confess to the murder of the other little girl in 1951, which was within the same area, you know, and so they feel like it was him, but with no evidence and no way to really tie him to it, you know, they can't they can't close the case and for sure say it was him without a conviction. And of course, he's dead, so you can't convict him either.
no,
So,
but
you know,
still, it would be nice to have the evidence just so you know, it's that
right.
part of grief and that whole pointing fingers and being able to place
Hmm.
blame and take
Right.
accountability.
Yep. And I did, yes, John, Jack, whatever. I mean, he went by Jack for many years, but um, I did feel for him in the fact that, they convicted him based off a blurry picture that a 61-year-old who was 8 at the time pointed out,
Yeah.
you know, like that. I mean, he did spend, a few years in jail, in
Yep.
prison, trying to, tell everybody he was innocent. I can't possibly be there when I'm over here 40 miles away at the same time,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. Um,
I've got a
so,
really long reach.
right,
Stabby, stabby.
Yeah.
right, right. And there were some pictures that they showed that were other people who lived in the area that did resemble John,
Hmm.
that you could have easily mistake them for, you know.
And especially
But
recalling that after what, 50 years?
it did years, yeah. And so that was one of the things too, because the judge said they couldn't use his paperwork because all of the people who signed it were dead as his defense.
Right.
However, he then he sued later on because they allowed testimony from Janet, from her mom telling her this from her deathbed. And he's like, why is that allowed? Because her mother's dead. Her
Right.
mother cannot corroborate this. So what's the difference? You know? And so that became a big thing too, a big lawsuit and stuff out of that. So yeah, I don't know. It was really crazy and twisty and turns, and I was like, I can't
Roller
believe.
coaster of a ride.
Yep.
Right. But the bad thing was to even get convicted at all. Like, why didn't they call the FBI? Because he told them the FBI has this information from where they questioned me back in 1958. They know this. You know, why didn't they call the FBI? The FBI, he wouldn't have even went to jail
Yep.
because then they would have had their case file with his alibi papers right there in it. But they didn't. It's again like Ben said, that just wanting to find someone to blame so that you can close the case.
Mhm.
But
You just want to
it's
wash your hands of it and be done, you know?
right.
And it happens a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it happens a lot. There, I don't think people realize how much it happens that an innocent person is convicted and put in prison.
Just because
You
they
know,
want to be like this, they just
right?
want
Yeah, because it happens quite often.
to, and it's Paris's fault.
Uh, uh, uh.
How so?
Because I said so.
Understood.
I got to take a potty break really quick.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Just go right there. You're in a the mesh chair. Just go right out there on the deck.
Oh, I'm in my good chair. See that mossy oak?
Oh, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
yours. Just mark it as yours.
Well, it is mine.
Just sometimes we have a lot to say.
Yep.
That's true. Some have a lot more details. I mean, I could have stretched it out with the details that everybody gave in their interviews and stuff, but like I
Nah,
gave the
you're fine. We're
Yeah.
fine.
You're
It
good.
the
happens.
important
We're
parts of
not.
it.
We haven't. Every week you can get 59 minutes of us being nuts. We never ever said that.
That's fair. Yeah.
Well, that's okay because that'll give me time to go eat and everything because I think Paris wanted it a little darker anyway for when we do our
Yeah.
Spooky wookie.
haunted ones.
I love that Star Wars race, the Wookiees.
The
I
Wookiees?
have plans for Paris.
Oh,
Oh goodness.
that's a different channel.
That's their
Yeah.
OF.
Yeah.
That's their of channel.
That's what I'm
Go
gonna start
hungry.
calling it from now on. It's like, oh, you're an of girl, and they're like, what?
You're an of girl.
I'm like, how do you spell that? And they're like, UV, and I'm like, you are dumb.
You.
Bless you.
You are dumb. Thank you. You are dumb. I'm allergic to girl of. Anyway, too many flaps. Too many folds.
All right.
Too
Are
much
we
tuna.
done with the episode then? So, for the listeners, I do want you to do us a favor. So, in the comments, I want you to drop your worst first date nightmare story that still makes you cringe. Drop it in the comments below, and we're going to do an episode on that. And we might feature your story.
I'll tell
Now,
mine.
as a
Oh yeah.
disclaimer, though,
It's
we
bad.
will use your social media name unless you tell us you want to be anonymous. So if you want to be anonymous, make sure in the comment you put anonymous so that we know not to use your name.
Gotcha.
I will tell mine during that episode,
I
and
will
believe
also
me,
tell mine.
That
it's
will
bad.
be, I think that'll be such a fun episode.
Oh, that'll
Oh
be
my god,
that. I
bad.
already thought of a good title and everything.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's going to be such a good episode. So guys, don't forget to leave your comments below, and that's us.
Yeah. That has been a small little bit. Can't give them too much. We don't want to overcomplicate their little noggins. But
Yep.
yeah, if you like what you see here, be sure to share this podcast.
Little noggins, you jerk face.
You're like, Paris, they're not meerkats. Calm down.
They're not lemmings. They're
They're
like,
not
ah!
lemmings. Well, if you enjoyed what you saw here today, then be sure to comment down below for the prompt or just in general.
Ding,
Yes, like the
ding.
video. Leave
Hit the
Ring
little
the
that
bell,
bell.
ring the bell
subscribe,
notification when you
and
subscribe,
notification.
and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.